tales of spirit, synchronicity, and soul wisdom. I'm Gina, Freedom Coach, Counselor, and Oracle, and this is where the unexplainable finds a voice. Here we tell stories that don't fit inside logic. Stories like messages from the beyond, mystical encounters with nature, and moments so wild they make you question everything, and yet feel more real than anything else. These are the stories that expand your mind, open your heart, and remind you that the invisible threads are always working in your favor. If you've ever felt something, seen something, or just known something others couldn't explain, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're connected. This is your safe space to trust what you feel, speak what you know, and remember who you truly are. Let's begin. Hello, and welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Gina Gail Gray, Freedom Coach, Counselor, and Oracle. My intention for this show is to open the doorway to the unexplainable, guiding you into that mysterious space where the physical and spiritual worlds meet. On this show, we don't just talk about ideas, we share stories, because story is where real truth lives. Not only what we've been told, but what we've actually experienced. My guest today is Roger Connolly, and his experiences may open your eyes like never before. Roger is a recent retiree from a long career in the tech world. Now he's a frequency enthusiast, a tree lover, avid traveler, and happily married father and grandfather. These days, he's exploring vocal toning, traveling, and sound bowl healing while enjoying life with his family, including 3 beloved pups. What's fascinating about Roger is that he wasn't actively seeking extraordinary spiritual experiences. In fact, many of them seemed to find him. So while traveling with his wife, Crystal, Roger began having a series of profound and unexplained experiences that raise a fascinating question. Could his eyes somehow serve as a visionary portal between worlds? Today, we're going to begin with a remarkable story that started it all for Roger, an experience in Peru involving blue light beings, a magical stone, a message, and a mystery that continues to unfold. Roger, welcome to Weird Real Life Stories.
Thank you so much, Gina. Thank you for that nice introduction.
How are you feeling today?
I feel really good. I'm so happy to be on the show, and I'm happy to talk about this story. And I just like you said, I hope it helps somebody to hear it.
And this happened 2 years ago, I believe, when we talked the other day. You said 2 years ago?
It's all a fairly recent occurrence for me. Yeah, it was just April of 2024, so just over 2 years ago. And like you said, I was still working in tech. I I had a 30-year career in high tech, and I wasn't quite done with it at that point. And so I was still fairly immersed in that 3D world, long hours and lots of technical work. But I'm so grateful that I went on this trip to Peru with my wife. The quick background of why that trip even happened was I went across the water to Seattle. We live on the other side of Puget Sound from Seattle, to this place called the Seattle Sound Temple, where they sold singing bowls, and she wanted one for her birthday. And I met these 2 ladies that run that shop and bought a singing bowl for her, and found out that they were taking a trip to Peru, and somehow that sounded intriguing. And so I told my wife, and she said, yeah, let's go. And so we find ourselves in Peru with a wonderful group of people. It was a small group, 12 women and 2 men. As a man in the spiritual world, I find that's about the general odds. There's much more wisdom in the female community these days. I seem to see them into much more spiritual stuff, but I'm glad to be one of the 2 guys there. And we spent most of that trip outside of Cusco in the Sacred Valley, going to different temples, and had some shamans with us. I'll just say briefly, this was not an ayahuasca trip for me. I know a lot of people go to Peru and do ayahuasca, and nothing wrong with that. But for me, that wasn't what this was about. But found ourselves one day, I always forget the name of this temple. The English term they call it is the Temple of the Moon, because there's a beautiful, huge boulder there with this carving in it that's a bit of a lunar calendar. And but the whole grounds is just beautiful there. And so we were there for the day, and there's water, and there's lots of monolithic, megalithic stones. And we find ourselves walking back down the path towards this waterfall. And the whole group is standing there. There's, again, 12 women and 2 men. And I look across this little creek that's formed because of the waterfall and see, much to my surprise, although it didn't startle me at all, a light being standing next to one of the stones. And it sort of motioned me over. It was human general shape. There was a bit of a face. If I looked right at it, it blinked out of existence, but my peripheral vision always saw it. And I don't remember feeling scared or not wanting to do that. It was beckoning me over. So I skipped over this stream and walked up to the stone that it was standing next to. And in my memory, I stepped into the same space that this being was in. We were sharing the same space. It felt like it was inside me and part of me. And that wasn't scary at all. And it had me squat down, which wasn't a comfortable position, not one that I would ever take, but I got the signal that it wanted me to squat down and put my hand on the stone that I was standing next to. And the stone was vibrating very intensely. Seemingly, it would almost make a sound. It was vibrating so loud, but with my hand on it, I could feel the vibration. And I remember looking at the rest of our group, and everybody seemed to be aligned with another light being, none of which any of them saw. I talked with all of them afterwards. Nobody saw any other light beings. But from my vantage point, when I looked at each of them, there was a light being right in the same place they were standing in. So all 14 of us were aligned around these stones. One was up on a hill. Even there, she was aligned with another light being. And anyway, in my mind's eye, I heard a loud voice, not scary, but quite clear, say, "This is an opportunity." And I intuitively knew that that meant I could either choose to send a message or not send a message. I don't know why that was clear, but it was very clear in my mind. And in retrospect, I wonder, was this being sharing its experience with me, or was I having this experience? But regardless, there I am, squatting next to this vibrating rock with this idea in my head that a message could be sent. And I acknowledged the opportunity and said, I think we should send a message. And the message that came to mind was, we need you to return. We've lost our way. And that message, in my mind, came from the group and sort of joined up, beamed up above our heads, and then beamed up into outer space. And the message was sent. And I have no idea how long it went or where it went to, but the message was sent. And I sort of came out of the, not trance, but the feeling I was in. I stood back up and I stepped across the water, and I said to my wife, I just had an experience and I'm a little shaking, because I still felt like I was very connected to this light being. I felt like it was still part of me, and it wasn't scary, but I was like, is this going to be in me forever? I don't know what's going on. And fortunately, my wife said, oh, talk to Irene, which was one of the ladies who was running the trip with us. And she had been teaching us some Vedic commands. And I stepped over and said, Irene, I just had an experience and I'm having a little trouble ending it. And she said, oh, and she knew what to do right away. She said, step over here and we'll say these commands. And it helped center me, and I felt better. And the group sort of wandered back towards the van where we were going back to where we were staying. And I was sharing the story with everybody. And it was just a remarkable experience.
Wow. Wow. You just went right into it. So I'm mesmerized, because this is such an unusual experience. And I find it fascinating that when you, I guess the first things you said was, I've had an experience. Did people start asking you? I mean, were you able to language and to share the parts of this story with the great detail that you can now, or did that kind of emerge?
It probably took a few tellings. That's a good question to ask. And I'll say again that being with that particular group and feeling supported by them really helped me feel comfortable explaining right away. It's not something, if I'd have gone back to work the next day, I couldn't tell my work friends, but I was with a group of people that were very supportive. And even though none of them saw it, I felt like they all believed me. They were like, absolutely, that happened there. Of course, that makes sense. So,
Yeah, yeah. We're in Peru. These things happen. Um, so when the message was sent up and you
mm,
said that it was kind of like the light came together and then went up. I think
yeah.
about those. Remember the old time department store suction tube things where you put a message in and it goes.
Yes, I remember.
It's like, yeah, I'm having the visual of that and it goes. So did all of the beings that were within and with each of the people, did they merge into that and go with that message?
I don't know if the beings themselves did, but the message definitely came from then. And again, the part that's always been interesting in my mind is, were they showing me the experience that they had had in some previous or future time? I don't know which, but were they sharing that with me and they all just sent it? Or were we repeating some experience? Were we all part of it? I felt very connected and part of it too. So,
Yeah. Well, and thank you for taking that opportunity to put that message up there
mm,
because I feel like it was one of those very thin veil moments where we know
for
that
sure.
that those spiritual beings are there to help and to guide and to support and to interact and connect and all of that. And I think it's remarkable that you just stepped in and embraced that experience. You weren't there for that purpose. You weren't
No,
there seeking out some spiritual experience
right.
like some of the others were. How did that work for you when you got to be the one having such a profound experience?
It's so funny you say that because I remember thinking also, like, well, what do I do now? Do I just go home? Like, is that it? How can it get any better? But honestly, it was such a good trip, and there were many other experiences, none as intense as that one for me. But all of the temples and all of the sacred areas there in that valley are so powerful that the whole group continued to have different experiences. I was so grateful to be witness to my wife having a very similar experience a few days later, and her and another woman there together having experience like right in front of me. Like I saw some light language come out of them, and it was, super powerful. So that sort of stuff can happen there. I loved how you said the veil is thinner. I used that phrase there as well. I felt like, you know, being up in the mountains and all of that sacred land, like there's just a chance in my experience for stuff to happen like that there that you don't bump into everywhere. So there are other places like that for sure in the world, but Peru is
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah, and I feel like this is going to encourage a lot of people who've been on the fence about should I go to Peru or not? What
Mm,
kind of things
a
happen? And I
lot.
haven't had my own experiences. I think hearing Roger's story would bring a great big yes. I also want to kind of circle back to you just lightly mentioned that you saw other people have experiences.
Mm,
I want to remind the audience that his wife is Crystal. Crystal,
mm,
as in my guest on two former episodes. And when she shared her story about her light language activation on the Inca Trail, this is the same. This is the same group. This is the same trip to Peru. And I have to tell you, it's kind of funny because I've talked to Crystal since then, and she shared with me how your experience came first
mm.
and her experience came a few days later. And she shared how she was kind of feeling, wait a minute, I'm here, I'm looking for the experiences. Roger's along as my companion, and he gets this experience. And so that's kind of funny. And she did get her what she was asking for came later. So
Yeah.
we can
Can I
we
tell
can
my side of that story real quick? It's
yes,
worth hearing.
please. Yes, because you witnessed it, and I'm not sure that that was told when she was on. So please share that experience from your point of view.
So we were at another temple, this one up above Cusco that day. And again, there's water at that temple. And the group is sort of walking through, and I look over, and two other women that I had become friends with, Kathy and forget the other lady's name right now. Anyways, they were standing near a certain section. I could see they were talking about something. And one of them goes, "Get Roger, make Roger come over here." And I looked and I'm like, what am I, like the tester model now? They're like, "Come over here and stand on this spot." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Stand right on this spot, right in front of us." And when I stepped onto it, it felt like there was a bolt of energy going up into the sky that shot through my body. It was so powerful and strong, like a vortex, that I stood there for a second and I actually fell over onto the ground. Not hurting myself, but onto like my butt. I fell down to the ground and I was like, that's way too strong. And I looked around and saw my wife, Crystal, and she was having another experience over in the corner. I walked over and I didn't want to interrupt her, but I put my hand on her. I said, honey, you have to come check something out. She's like, I'm doing something right now. I'm like, I know, but come with me for just a second. And I walked her over, and when she stepped into that beam, she was looking face to face with this other woman who had already spoken some light language, and Crystal immediately began to speak light language, and it triggered the other woman, and they were speaking it to each other right in front of me, and it was pretty mind-blowing. So, and I don't want to share any more of her experience, and I know she's been on your show and talked about it, but it was really fun to see.
Well, and you had never heard light language come through her before, right?
No,
So,
no.
yeah, yeah. And I want to also share that recently Crystal came here to Mexico. So we had a week
Mm,
together to talk about
yes.
some things that we are co-creating to offer to other people to come to Mexico and share some of these kinds of conversations. If nothing else,
Yeah.
just come and share these conversations. I was privileged to receive and hear and witness Crystal
Mm,
and her delivery gift of light language, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is something that I encourage people: find Crystal, work with her,
mm,
have a session with her. It may or may not come out. It's just one of the tools in her toolbox, but it is truly a beautiful experience. I don't enjoy everybody's light language. Sometimes when it starts up with people, it's
mm,
not for me. I have to leave. So Crystals is a very beautiful, from a place
mm.
of light and love, no doubt. So,
Agreed. Agreed.
back to you, and this activation of your eyes as a visionary. I feel like these blue light beings
Mm,
connected with you, and however, I'm sure you will spend the rest of your life trying to find meaning, what it all meant and how to use it. But you did go on down the road and you went to another, I think it was a Lee Harris
yeah, I've had a
gathering.
few experiences now with there's some connection to that being sharing space with me for sure. So the Lee Harris one was just a few months after we got back from Peru, and we're in Santa Fe, does this week-long retreat. It's really fantastic. And he just did this little thing that often when someone's on the stage, they do as a little experiment. They say, okay, audience, let's pair up in twos and everybody turn, and we're going to have you stare into each other's eyes. No talking aloud. There'll be no music. It'll be quiet. We just want you to stare into each other's eyes. So I knew what the experiment was about, but I had a very different experience than what everybody else seemed to share. Most people shared afterwards that, it's hard to stare directly into another person's eyes with no talking, just experiencing the person soul to soul. But for me, seemingly a little light came on above my head, and a spirit or entity stepped up behind me and sort of requested if it could see through my eyes because it knew this woman whose eyes I was staring to. I picked a stranger sitting next to me to do this with, so I didn't even know this woman's name. And I was nervous at first, and my guide team sort of stepped close to me and put their hands on my back and said, "It's okay, Roger, you'll be okay. Let this happen." And so I allowed this whatever to sit and sort of occupy my body the same way that light being had done. I didn't leave my body. I just make space, and both of us are there. And it just wanted to see through my eyes. And again, the exercise that Lee set up, there was no talking, so I couldn't really say anything. I felt like the entity knew this woman and was so happy and grateful just to be able to see her through human eyes. And after a few minutes, it exited, and I realized there was another one that would like the same opportunity. And I said, okay, and so this one seemed to know the woman as well. And then it left, and I realized now there's like a line of entities behind me. Some of them don't know her. They just want a chance to sit down and use my eyes for a few minutes. So that went on. The whole thing only lasted about 20 minutes. It felt much longer. Time sometimes changes like that when those things are happening. But of course, Lee calls on me first. I stand up and he points right at me. I'd like to hear what he goes, the gentleman with the mustache. Can we hear your experience? So I said, thanks, Lee. And so I told them, again, it was a safe place where I could share something like that. Nobody else in the room had an experience like that, but it was really powerful for me. So
So what did they say when you shared that? This is a very, very unusual. I've been working with the spirit realm for a long time, and I've never heard anything quite like this. What did that audience have to say about that? What did Lee have to say about that?
he's so good. He just accepted and didn't question and supported my experience and just moved on to the next person. Now I had several other people, like you said, come up and give me different advice on what they thought it might be. I thought for a little while, maybe this is closer to mediumship. Maybe I'm can have a conversation with a spirit, but it feels quite different because, like you and I talked about the other day, the spirits aren't here beside me for me to translate communications for. They're actually sharing a part of my experience. And can I try and squeeze in real quick the Egypt one because that seems relevant? So a few months later, I find myself in Egypt. Somehow we booked two fantastic trips in 1 year, Peru and Egypt. It was a lot, but I'm so grateful we did it. And I'm getting ready to step into Sekhmet's temple. We got taken back behind one of the larger temples, and there's a room where there's a statue of Sekhmet that gets locked down because the government found out that strange things happened there. And so you have to sort of get a guide to take you back. Anyways, very powerful experience. I'm standing in front of this statue, and I remember what happened to me in Santa Fe. And I think, well, this statue has eyes. It's a very powerful statue. Could something happen? And as soon as I had that thought, it felt like the back of my head opened up as a viewfinder, and I turned over my shoulder and I saw an image of Egypt that wasn't where we were at in Egypt. I saw the pyramids still painted white. I saw water flowing. It was like a marketplace. There was a woman standing in garb very different than we wear now. So it was some other time. And when I turned my head back and faced Sekhmet, she stepped up behind me, and I was like a pair of binoculars, and she could see through my head and saw Sekhmet. And as soon as she did, she turned and shouted, there's someone in Sekhmet's temple. We can see Sekhmet. And people came and lined up and took turns looking through my binocular back of my head. And they just wanted to see Sekhmet. There was no pushing or shoving. Everybody was very polite about it, but they were so happy and so grateful to see that statue of Sekhmet. And then, of course, I find myself afterwards. It's only 15 minutes, but it felt like a long time again. And I'm telling, the group that I'm with, oh my God, this is what happened. No one else had that experience, but it was very powerful. And I'm so glad I got to do that.
Well, and I believe that all of those spiritual beings are glad they got to do that, and that
Mm.
you allowed that, you gave permission. And I'm thinking about like when you go to the Grand Canyon and there's the viewfinder thing where you
Yeah,
look through and you see this
that was me.
it's right there. What an incredible thing for your body to be able to do, but you step
Mm.
aside, you're still there, you have
Yeah,
your guardians that are saying this is okay. You
yeah.
give permission, and then all of these spiritual beings get to have this experience. And I have been to that temple, and I've watched other people have experiences and since heard
Mm.
different people's experiences, the magic that happens in that temple. Your story is right up there with the most profound ones that I have heard. And I just want to thank you for the courage to step aside and allow. Well, I talked with you a little bit about this, about I keep getting this feeling that what is happening with you is a version of shape-shifting.
Mm. Yeah.
Shape-shifting is a very important exchange, lending out of the body. There's a whole lot to it, and I only know about it because when my son transcended, he wrote a book, and one of the
Mm.
chapters in the book is specifically called Shifting Shapes. And he gives the explanation of how a spirit shapeshifts, how many ways a spirit has to shapeshift and appear to their loved ones who are here wanting to have interaction and connection and collaboration with them. And so I think it's incredible that it feels like you allow your body, your eyes specifically, for
Mm.
a spiritual being to come in and see things through your eyes, and everybody's okay with that. So
Mm.
that's I know you will spend a lot of time. You will work with your guides and you will work with different modalities and pick up all the little pieces of the puzzle and put it together with your own little spiritual gifts that are unique to you. Are you continuing to work on and piece all of that together?
I am for sure. I feel like my feet got set on a really good path and it feels like it's going somewhere. So like I know I've got lots to investigate still, but so happy to be on this path.
Yeah, and I've been told in a meditation with Venus, the goddess Venus, I was told very specifically that our inner eye,
Mm,
she said it's not a third eye because it was there first. It's the inner eye,
mm,
and it sees and it hears.
mm. Yes.
And so when we think about that, everyone's wanting to crack open the pineal gland and have this, experience. And oh, once I do, all my wisdom is back, all of that thing. I think it's very interesting and powerful to remember that, yeah, it sees and it hears. It's right there
Mm,
behind and in between your ears and your eyes. So it's all of those things working together.
right.
So you are now on this path where you are working with sound healing and you're working with
Yes.
bowls and toning and using your voice. So
Yes.
you get to see first or allow others to see through you. You see at the same time all of
Yes.
these incredible things. And now you're bringing in the sound. So I think in a few months or couple of years, we're going to be looking for you
Oh,
to work with you and bring these incredible experiences because we're all waking up and remembering that we have these capabilities and we have these gifts. And the way that you're playing with yours is really, really beautiful. And I want to tell you how grateful I am that you came and had the courage, my first man guest, and you're here telling your story and proud to be. So
yes.
proud to be the two among the 12 women. That takes a lot
Yes.
of courage, just that, right?
Yeah. Happy to be it. Really happy.
Well, well, as you go along, I hope that you will come back and share more stories as you create more stories, because I know you and Crystal are traveling a lot. You're going to amazing places and both working on your gifts, and I would love to have you back.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Gina.
All right. So to close now, I'd like to mention that whether it's a winged messenger that lays eggs on your hand, like my experience, or blue light beings opening a
Mm,
portal through your eyes, like Roger's, these weird real life stories are never just weird. They're whispers from the universe reminding us that we're connected, we're guided, and we're part of something much bigger than we can see. So if this episode touched your soul or stirred your curiosity, I invite you to share your own weird real life story with me. Reach out to me at freedomcoach23@gmail.com. The first person to send me a message will get a complimentary mind, body, and soul session with me. So I hope to hear from some of you, and you never know who your story might heal. So until next time, keep watching for the signs. And as my son Spencer says, keep listening to the silence. Just saying. Peace to you. Thank you, Roger.
thanks.
Thank you for walking through the mystery with me on Weird Real Life Stories. I hope today's story stirred something sacred in you, something that reminds you your experiences matter, even the ones you can't explain. If your soul whispered yes at any point, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And be sure to tune in every first and third Wednesday at noon Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio for more true tales of spirit, synchronicity, and soul wisdom. To explore my holistic coaching, retreats, or tools for healing mind, body, and soul, visit anywheremindbodysoul.com. And if you're ready to go even deeper, my channeled book with my son Spencer, Listen to the Silence, Messages and Miracles from Spencer Who Never Spoke Words, is waiting for you at listentothesilence.org. You're not crazy, you're connected, and the story is just beginning.